A person's a person, no matter how small. Welcome to Freedom Alive. Dr. William Lile is known as the pro-life doc. He's board certified in obstetrics and gynecology. In 1999, Dr. Lile took over the practice of a physician who had been the largest provider of abortions in the Florida Panhandle for decades. Then all abortions and referrals for abortions immediately stopped. Dr. Lile joins us to share the incredible ways he and his team are saving the lives of unborn babies that would otherwise be statistics. I'm blessed to again be joined by our co-host, Matt Staver. And Matt, I think of a photograph taken 24 years ago of a baby's hand coming out of the womb during a surgery. That photographer caught the moment that baby Samuel grabbed the doctor's finger. What a reminder of the incredible technology available now to help babies in the womb. But more important, it's a reminder that every preborn child is created in the image of God and has the right to life.
That image is iconic, and in fact, the individual who was the photographer of that became pro-life as a result of that situation. Prior to that surgery, where he captured that little baby, Samuel, and the hand of Samuel coming out of the mother's uterus to grasp onto the tip of the finger of the surgeon who had been operating on baby Samuel in the uterus, he was in favor of abortion. But when he saw that moment, really it's this moment of the little baby grabbing the finger, a real live baby who's an independent patient in the womb undergoing surgery 2 decades ago. That was a change for him, and that was a turning point. And he realized that this is a human being. These are individuals. They're just smaller than we are, and they have a right to life.
This is a remarkable, inspiring story in this battle for life, and we cannot wait to bring it to you. But our Freedom Alert is next.
Wyoming says no to chemical abortions. I'm Matt Staver, co-host of Freedom Alive. Wyoming is the first state to explicitly ban abortion pills, and they will impose criminal penalties upon those who violate the law. Governor Gordon signed the bill, which makes it unlawful to prescribe, dispense, distribute, or sell the pills for the purpose of an abortion. Violators would be charged with a misdemeanor, punishable by imprisonment for 6 months, a fine, or both. However, the woman who has a chemical abortion is not criminally prosecuted. Another law, known as Life is a Human Right Act, was also enacted. It modifies an existing abortion ban to include prescribing or selling abortion pills. This law states, from conception, the unborn baby is a member of the human race. More states need to follow Wyoming's example.
Up next, Matt's interview with Dr. William Lile.
I want to welcome my special guest, Dr. William Lile. He is board certified in obstetrics and gynecology. And just to get a little glimpse of his practice, just moments before we began this interview with Dr. Lile, he's already delivered 4 babies, and that's just since midnight, and his day is just beginning. Welcome to Freedom Alive, Dr. Lile.
It's an honor to be here, sir. Thank you very much.
You know, it's incredible. You've already delivered 4 babies before we even conduct this interview, and the day is still young in your time zone, and you have other patients and other things that you will do. You deliver 25 to 30 babies a month. That's an average of 1 a day, essentially, every single month. How did you get involved as a physician now with an interest in obstetrics and gynecology?
I was always interested in medicine, and it was when I was in my rotations in medical school that I really developed a love for obstetrics. It was the only time where somebody would be going into the hospital and they were happy. They were ecstatic.
Yeah.
Nobody's happy about getting their gallbladder out or getting a new knee, but having a baby, you're happy. So that was wonderful. But you also got to see people and get to know your patients all through their seasons of life, before they have children, when they're having children, and then even in menopause and later in life. You still got to perform surgery, whether it's open, laparoscopic, or robotic. So it was just a love that I have. And the practice that we took over in 1999 was at that time the largest provider of abortions here on the Florida Panhandle. we took over the practice. We had him sign a restrictive covenant to non-compete where he couldn't practice any form of medicine in the tri-county area, and it pushed him into retirement. And we went for years without a single abortion clinic in the panhandle, and we're now back to that status where from Tallahassee to Pensacola, there is not a single abortion clinic.
You know, as someone who's not a physician, just thinking about this from a practical standpoint, what happens in medical school? Because with the undeniable information that we now have with respect to the development of the unborn child in the womb, with all of the ways to be able to see inside that womb and that little baby, all the scientific information that we have, and obviously the practice that people conduct, you would think that every physician graduating from medical school would naturally be defaulted to protect human life and be against abortion. What happens in medical school, and why are we seeing anybody even going to this practice of abortion?
Well, the science defends the preborn, and all true science will defend God's creation. Sometimes it's our scientists that are messed up. But when you look at the details of the babies developing on the inside and how we can treat them as a patient, it's a matter of patients' rights. And when people can see and they have this information, they have ultrasound, they have MRI, we're now putting cameras directly into the womb and we're operating on the babies in the womb. To deny that and to understand that, but then on Friday, make the decision that you're going to abort that life in the womb, that's not just a choice. That's not a different decision. That's a spiritual battle. We're created in the image of God at the moment of conception, and at its core, basic foundation, abortion is an attack against that image of God.
Yeah, so true. It's very much a spiritual battle. It's a blindness because the scientific facts are indisputable, as you say, and it's a blindness. And you had mentioned before in one of your messages that perhaps an OBGYN can 95% of his or her practice be working with mothers, pregnant women, delivering babies, and then 5% do abortions. How in the world can someone change from protecting that life, delivering that life, to actually destroying what they know is a human life?
Correct. And even our governing body, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, of which there are 60,000 members of, they are just pushing abortion, not only surgical, but the abortion pill throughout the United States. Residencies are now looking at medical students' social media because they really want to weed out anybody who has maybe gone to the March for Life or posted things that are pro-life. They don't want them to become obstetricians and gynecologists. Currently, there are 7,000 members of a group called the American Association of Pro-Life Obstetricians and Gynecologists. 7,000 board-certified OBGYNs who are taking a stand and say, no, the stand that ACOG has made that abortion is good and abortion is healthcare, we disagree with that vehemently. These are our patients, and a patient is a person, no matter how small. 7,000 of us have joined together to defend God's preborn.
And we, Liberty Counsel, have been privileged to be able to represent and work with that pro-life OBGYN organization, and it continues to grow. I want to pray also for these medical students because that are going into OBGYN practices. You know, once they graduate from medical school, they need to be matched, as I understand it, to other practicing facilities. And if they are screened out because they're pro-life, they may graduate from medical school, but they may not be able to pursue their profession as an OBGYN. So that's a big issue, but you're filling the void with these 7,000 and growing OBGYNs, and that is a good sign. Talk about the patient. You know, there's two things that come up in my mind. Number one, the 1965 Life magazine. The Supreme Court knew back in 1965, when they did the 1973 decision of Roe versus Wade, that life begins in the womb. The very front cover of that magazine is the baby in the womb. Incredible photos. Some of those were in vitro photographs, revolutionary at the time, before all the ultrasounds. And then you have the baby Samuel. Remember that, where you had this iconic picture of this baby being operated on inside the womb, and he reaches out to grab the tip of the finger of the physician who's doing the surgery. Talk about the baby as that separate patient and the science that backs up the fact that it's indisputable. This is life.
Yeah. Well, what's amazing is the baby's name is Samuel Armas, and I was actually speaking at Georgia Right to Life, and Samuel and his family came to hear me speak. We're now in our third generation, 3.0 of treating spina bifida in the womb. But it's not just spina bifida. Even at my hospital, we are doing life-saving blood transfusions to babies in the womb as early as 18 weeks gestation. It's like, well, why would a baby need a blood transfusion? Because from the moment of conception, the mother and the baby are genetically unique. In fact, the moms and the babies can have different blood types. Moms can have antibodies which can cross the placenta and start to attack the baby's blood, and the baby's blood count will start to drop. Well, just like anybody else who needed blood, we do blood transfusion. So if you've donated blood to the Red Cross or One Blood and you have O negative blood, we can use your blood to guide a needle through the skin of the mother with an ultrasound, guide it through the wall of the uterus, go right into the umbilical cord, and give that baby a life-saving blood transfusion. But we're not just doing blood transfusions. We are doing spina bifida corrective surgery. Like just with Samuel, we're actually correcting defects in the spine, not only doing it open like Samuel's, but now even doing it with a fetoscope where we go in just like you're having gallbladder surgery. It's almost outpatient surgery.
What's the benefit of doing it in the womb, say, versus doing it after the baby is already born?
Vanderbilt University has been doing a lot of the pioneering of that. And what they have found is that, yes, there are risks with doing the surgery in the womb. But when you follow these children for, now it's been over 10 years, that on the children that have the surgery done in the womb, when you follow them long term, they can go upstairs faster, downstairs faster. They have better control of their bladders, better control of their bowels. So by treating them as a patient in the womb, we actually are improving their quality of life for the rest of their lives. So it is the right thing to do. But we're also doing laser surgery with twins who are sharing a placenta, where we can actually divide the placenta, which is not being shared equally, and say, this is your half, this is your half. And at the Cleveland Clinic a little over a year ago, they had a baby that actually had a teratoma, a tumor in its heart that was growing so quickly it was going to kill the baby. They had two options. They said, we can deliver this baby at 27 weeks and do the surgery, but now we have a preemie that just had open heart surgery. They said, or we can do surgery in the womb. And not only did they do the surgery in the womb, but when they made the incision in the skin of the mother, the incision in the womb, they delivered the right arm and they delivered the left arm. They had a pediatric anesthesiologist start an IV in the baby's hand. Mom is comfortable with an epidural. The anesthesiologist started an IV in the baby's hand. Baby's getting pain medicine, fentanyl, a paralytic, Norcuron, so the baby wasn't moving around. Once the baby was comfortable, they removed the tumor. They then closed up the baby again, removed the IV, closed the womb, closed the skin, and they delivered a healthy, great baby 10 weeks later at 37 weeks gestation. So if you're having your kidney taken out, your kidney doesn't get its own anesthesiologist, but a baby is a unique patient and a different person. So this baby had its own anesthesiologist.
Wow.
And we are seeing advances like that every month or two.
So you had two anesthesiologists, one for the mom, one for the baby. And
One
each one's focusing on the independent individual patients at the same time.
In fact, the reason they didn't give mom general anesthesia, they just gave her an epidural, is they didn't want medications being given to the mom to also go to the baby.
Oh, my goodness.
So mom was comfortable with an epidural, but then the pediatric anesthesiologist made the baby comfortable, and then a pediatric cardiothoracic surgeon did open heart surgery on the baby. There were 12 doctors, nurses, and techs in this room. That is healthcare. Abortion is not healthcare. If you have a mom with a heartbeat and a baby with a heartbeat, go into the OR and 12 medical specialists are there and they are healing both of them. That's healthcare. When you have a mom with a heartbeat and a baby with a heartbeat, go into an abortion clinic and then only the mom walks out with a heartbeat, you just lost the lives of half of your patients. Abortion is not healthcare.
Well, you know, I know you're bringing tears to people who are watching this, because you're bringing tears to me just thinking of that miraculous surgical procedure that happens on a regular basis in different places around the country, even around the world, and yet we're killing babies. These are babies that obviously need anesthesia, and they need anesthesia because they're living. and they need anesthesia because they're going to feel pain just like mom feels pain. But what about what's happening with the chemical abortions? You know,
Sure.
we see the current administration really pushing this out to have chemical abortions. Talk about what happens in that situation. And I know you've been successful in some situations where you've been able to reverse these chemical abortions that already have been in progress.
Sure. Well, first, there's a big difference between the morning after pill and the abortion pill. And people need to understand that. The morning after pill is indicated for the morning after a woman has intercourse, and it will force her to have a menstrual cycle. And if she happened to have gotten pregnant and doesn't even have a positive pregnancy test yet, it would force that pregnancy to pass. The abortion pill is not the morning after. It is indicated for up to 70 days, 10 weeks after the first day of the last menstrual period. So there's a beating heart, there are fingers, there are toes, there's a baby that's moving around the inside. The abortion pill is 98% effective in killing that baby in the womb. Is there an antidote when somebody realizes they've made a bad decision? Absolutely. Just like if somebody makes a bad decision and they take fentanyl, they take too much of a narcotic and they are not breathing, they are unconscious and going to die. Do we have an antidote? Sure. It's called Narcan. Well, when somebody contacts us and says, I made a mistake, I took the abortion pill, we have a network of over 500 doctors nationwide. We have documented that we have successfully reversed the effect safely for mom and baby over 4,000 times. I've attempted abortion pill reversal 17 times, and I've been successful 13 of those 17 times. I mean, I've delivered triplets and quads and have had a great career, but getting to deliver and then hold the baby that had a 98% chance of dying, yet you were able to use the wonders of modern medicine to reverse that. That's amazing to me. And it is the perfect story of redemption. It cost about $109 to reverse the effect of the abortion pill. So you're spending money to buy back or redeem the life of that baby. And we're successful 70% of the time. Well, for those who go to church, that is the message of redeemed through the blood of Christ. 100% of us, we're going to death, eternal separation from God, yet we are offered the gift of salvation where we can be redeemed, bought back with the blood of Jesus Christ, something much more valuable than a month of prometrium. So we are redeeming the lives of these babies. We are redeemed through the blood of Jesus Christ. This is a spiritual battle. And there was just a recent survey that looked at men and women in churches. 18 to 24% of the men and the women in churches today have personally been involved in an abortion. Is an abortion wrong? Yes. Is it unforgivable? It's forgivable. The blood of Jesus is able to cover any sin. And it's amazing how people will feel they can't get involved in a pro-life ministry because they had an abortion. Well, they are uniquely qualified to counsel and train and share the love of Jesus. I mean, look at Paul's life. Paul was persecuting Christians. He stood there while Stephen was being stoned. Yet did God use him? Absolutely. So even people who've had an abortion are used by God and have value in this ministry of defending God's preborn in the womb.
In the moments that we have remaining, share with us, if you will, one of your stories of life that was destined for death, one of those 13 miraculous situations.
Sure. We had a patient that lived in Destin, Florida, right on the Gulf Coast. And she found out she was pregnant. She'd been dating the same gentleman for a long time, and she was scared to death. She thought that if he found out she was pregnant, he was going to leave her. So she called up to Tallahassee, and she tried to get in for an appointment to get the abortion pill. And they were full up. They were packed. They couldn't get her in for 2 weeks, which would put her at 11 weeks, too late to take the abortion pill. They suggested that she go all the way to Jacksonville, Florida. She goes to Jacksonville. She gets the information. She signs the consent. She swipes her credit card. She swallows the pill, and she gets on I-10. And now she's heading west, heading back towards her home in Destin. Somebody had put up a billboard on Interstate 10 that said, "Your mom chose life. You should too." Well, it kind of sat in the back of her head, and she keeps on driving, gets up past the next rest area, and she said another group had put up a billboard that said, "Heartbeat at 18 days." and that by that she was convicted. She didn't know about our website, but she pulled off at the next rest area and she gets out her phone and she Googles abortion pill antidote. She finds our website, abortionpillreversal.com, speaks with a nurse in Columbus, Ohio. The nurse calls me, I call the patient. Get the information. I called the prescription into a pharmacy there in her hometown and said, just keep on driving, go straight to your pharmacy, pick up the pill. She picked up the pill. I confirmed that the night after, and then we saw her in the office that following Monday. 98% chance after she took the abortion pill, she was not going to have a heartbeat. And she came into our office 10 days later, just scared to death. I mean, there was no color in her face. She had no expression because she really thought that she had killed her baby. We do the ultrasound, don't know what we're going to see. And what do we see first? We see the heartbeat, and we hear the heartbeat. It's going thump, 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 thump. She's ecstatic. We have a heartbeat. We saw her a week later. We still had a heartbeat. She then told her boyfriend, fully expecting that he might leave her. Not only was he thrilled, but he wanted to stay with her. But then a couple weeks later, he proposed. 2 months later, they got married, and I got to deliver their baby. That's an amazing miracle. That's the story of redemption and healing. Now we have a happy family with a beautiful baby, and all of us need to be engaged in this. Other than sharing the gospel message, I can't think of anything the church needs to be actively engaged in more than this issue. So when you have this amazing transformation on this couple, it wasn't just me, it wasn't just the nurse in Columbus, Ohio. God uses us all. God spoke with somebody and said, put up a billboard. And then God spoke with a totally different group. Put up a billboard. We see those billboards when we're driving along I-10. Those billboards spoke to that mom. And then I've even had pharmacists, when I've called in the Prometrium, I've had pharmacists to say, Dr. Lile, are you trying to reverse the effect of the abortion pill? And it's like, well, first, it's none of your business, but we're told to be bold. So I said, yes, ma'am, I am. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this. I've never done this before, but I know it's legit. I said, sure is. I said, and I had one pharmacist where I said, listen, we have Apple Pay. My wife and I pay for all the reversals that we do. And she said, no, I can't take your credit card. And I'm like, it's good. My wife pays the bills. And she goes, no, you don't understand. She goes, I'm so excited about this. I'm going to pay for the reversal medication. The pharmacist paid for the reversal medication. We saw that patient in our office a week later, and we had a heartbeat. God works. We're all links in a chain. There was a pharmacist, there was a physician, there was a nurse, there were people who put up billboards. If one of those links in that chain had not done what God had called them to do, these babies would not be alive. So we need to link together, work together, act as a team to defend God's preborn, because when you look through Judges 3, 4, 5, and 6, where the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, God said, you know what? He not only said, you're on your own, he strengthened their enemies. He brought, judgment on them. If we have now killed the lives of 63 million babies created in the image of God here in the United States, there's no doubt that is doing evil in the sight of the Lord. Can we win? Yes. 2,000 years ago, Satan thought he had won because Jesus was dead, Jesus was in the grave, and Satan was celebrating. Yet what happened on Easter morning? Jesus rose from the dead. He conquered death, and Satan was defeated. So if Satan can be defeated 2,000 years ago, we can win this battle if we all work together in this spiritual battle for defending the image of God. And yes, we can win the fight for God's preborn.
Dr. Lile, thank you so much for your work, your ministry, your words of encouragement, your words of admonition as well. People can contact you at prolifedoc.org.
Correct.
prolifedoc.org. I encourage people to get in contact with you, to speak, to support what you're doing, and to spread the word of life. Thank you for what you do, Dr. Lile, and thank you for being our guest.
It was an honor to be here. God bless you all.
Matt, this story is just another reason why I love doing Freedom Alive together with you. And I think we air this program in so many places. And if you're not in Florida, you may not realize that when Dr. Lile's talking about no abortion providers from Tallahassee to Pensacola, that's 200 miles.
Yeah, that's a long way.
And how God works with One person with an obedient heart who would make a decision to boldly step out and answer his call, and what has happened as a result. It's breathtaking.
Well, and also he talks about every chain in that link, that link in the chains where each person had some part in that life reversal that was headed to death. The people that conceived the idea of the billboard, the people who donated, the people who put it up, the people who supported the organizations, those who were part of the network of the abortion pill reversal. Dr. Lile, the thousands and thousands of OBGYNs who are out there dedicated to defending, advancing, protecting, especially the sanctity of human life created in the very image of God. All of those came together, and it was that billboard that brought to mind this woman to think, and then a second billboard, and then a phone call. And eventually she connected to Dr. Lile, and the rest is amazing because they got married. He gives the opportunity to birth that baby, holds the baby in his hands. That was literally scheduled for death. If we're just simply not addressing the issue of what's happening in our culture, we're not connecting the dots that are happening around us, then we're not really connecting the scriptures or God's will to our community, to our life, to our church. And make sure that your church actually gets involved. And maybe you're the one to do it, you know, to actually encourage people to get involved and form a network, form support groups, get involved. Every person can make a difference. And churches ought to be at the very core of making a difference.
Absolutely. And to extend upon that, the parallel between what Dr. Lile was talking about, 60,000 OBGYNs, right, certified as part of the association, 7,000 have chosen to take a stand. And I'm just reminded of when God told Elijah at his lowest moment, right after his highest moment, when he was thinking it was over for him, that there were 7,000 that had never taken a knee to Baal. And God mobilizes his army, as you mentioned, with the billboards and every piece of this story. But it's just remarkable what happens, to your point, when we, it doesn't even have to be, become a doctor. What happens when we choose to get involved? It's so powerful.
And don't fall into the trap that this is a political issue. This is not a political issue. This is a biblical issue. It's a spiritual issue. It's an issue that's very close and near to the heart of God.
Absolutely. We love bringing you stories like this on Freedom Alive every week. Well, in closing, remember Psalm 139, verse 13 and 14, which says, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well." Our freedom is a gift from our Creator. We must never forget that and always protect it. So join us here next time, where you'll hear victories as well as ways you can stand up for your priceless freedom. Join us again for Freedom Alive.